Alright, 3.4b is where we're at now, and we're still on page 197. We're just going to do a few more of the problems here. 16 over 35 divided by 8. Remember, the second number is not a fraction, so it's kind of hard to take the reciprocal, flip it over, unless we know that as a fraction it's 8 over 1. So, let's go ahead and flip it over. I'm just going to erase this and put times 1/8 now. I flipped it over and put a time sign. That's what's nice about a whiteboard, is I can do that. And then again, we are going to change these. Well, I know this is just kind of a shortcut. You don't have to do it this way, but I know 16 is the same as 2 and 8. And I have an 8 here. So if I just leave that, I will eventually be able to cancel. 7 and 5 are my two numbers there, so I'm going to write 7 and 5 there. And then I can just multiply or divide that 8 over 8 and be able to cancel those out or cross those out. I mean, I could have written this as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, because that's 16, and then written this as 2 times 2 times 2 and canceled those 3 and canceled those 3. But if I know that this has a factor of this, then I can just leave it with that factor and cross out my 8's. And then I have 2 over 35, and I'm good to go there. Alright, let's do one with a couple negatives in here. Let's do negative 27, and let's divide that by negative 3 over 2. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our 27, and it's the first one, so it doesn't change. We can write it as negative 27 over 1 if we like, but we're going to multiply, flip this upside down, and leave the negative. You know, in the negative, notice I've got a negative 3 here, and when I flipped it, the negative is on the 2 now. Doesn't matter, because if you remember, a negative and a positive, if you were to divide this, negative 2 divided by 3, you get a negative. A negative and a positive, different signs are going to give you a negative answer. It's going to be negative regardless of whether this negative is up here or down here. If it makes you feel better, we can put the negative sign down here and just keep it with the 3, but it isn't going to change anything. So, we've got a 27, which we can break that down, and we can break that down into a 3 and a 9. And again, it doesn't matter which one of these you drag the negative along with, because negative 3 times positive 9 is negative 27, or positive 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. So it doesn't really matter. Times 2, let's leave the negative 3 down here. And we can change this even further if we want to. We could change this to a 3 and a 3. But let's see what we've got here. We've got a negative 3 and a negative 3. So we got rid of both the negatives and the 3. And we have 9 times 2 now, which is going to give me 18. Okay, so a few little tricks that you learn as you're doing these. Makes it a little bit easier. Let's do one with some variables in it. X squared over y, and let's divide that by x over y cubed. Alright, so we're going to flip it over since it has a division sign. The second one, remember, is the one that flips over. And we're going to write it as a product of primes, which x squared is x times x. Y cubed is y times y times y. And then we've got our y and our x. So now we get rid of that x with that one, that y with that one. And we're left with two y's and an x. So 2y's, y times y is the same as y to the second power, because that's what y squared means, y times y, and our x. Notice how I put the x in front of the y. That's just mathematically correct that you put your letters in alphabetical order. You could have put it here and it works. It's still the right answer, but it looks better and it's more mathematically correct if everybody does it the same way. So they put the x in front of the y there. Alright, which brings us to the last part on 198, fractions and the order of operations. So they give you a couple of examples there, and let's do a couple of those. Example number 9 says the quotient of 8/3 and 1/6. Quotient means division. So the quotient of 8/3 and 1/6 is increased by 5. So this answer, once we divide, we get an answer, and that's called our quotient. We're going to increase it by 5. And they want to know what number results. Well, if you remember PEMDAS, we're going to do what's in the parentheses first. So we're going to do 8/3 times 6/1, and then we're going to add 5 to that. Okay, that being the case, let's go ahead and write our product of primes. There's my 8/3, and there's my 6/1. See what I can cancel here. I can cancel that 3 and that 3. Keep using the word cancel. The real word is actually dividing. Then I multiply through. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So I get 16 here, but I can't forget to add my 5. So this is just the answer to that. Then I have to add my 5, which gives me 21. And that's real easy to forget. You get so caught up in the method here, you forget to remember, or you forget to put down what they're asking for in the problem. So make sure you look at it before you assume that you're done. All right, one more. Let's make this one a little tricky. 32 divided by 4/3, and we'll square that. Let's add 75 to that, and then divide it by 25/4. Little bit of a mess there. Okay, so if you remember PEMDAS, we're going to follow those rules, and we should be just fine doing this. Okay, let's do what's in the parentheses first, which also includes an exponent for e. So 32 divided by 16/9. The 4/3, if it gets squared, the 4 gets squared, also the 3. So both parts of that fraction get squared. Plus 75 divided by 25/4. Okay, I just take it one little bit at a time. Now, let's go ahead and start from left to right, because we've got multiplication, don't have any, so we start with our division from left to right. So let's write that as 32 times 9/16. And we don't have to do the division, but we can flip this over right now. That's not going to hurt anything. So we're going to make that 4/25. So now we have a multiplication problem there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one from left to right first. Let me change colors here so it shows up a little better. 32 can be written as 2 times 2 times 2, 8 times 2 is 16 times 2 is 32. 9 can be written as 3 times 3, and that 9 is over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 16. So that's what's in the box here. So we can start canceling. Whoops, make sure I cancel the same on the top as on the bottom. And I'm left with 2 times 3 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6 times 3 is 18. And now I have plus 75 times 4/25. Okay, I'm going to erase this stuff up here and continue on with the problem. So this is what I have to work with that I haven't figured out. 18 plus 75, times 4/25. Okay, and let's continue with that real quick before I run out of time. 18 plus 75 times 4/25. I just wrote that. 75, we have to do that first because it's multiplication, isn't it? So we're going to change that 25 to a 25 times 3 so I can cancel those. So now I have a 3 times 4, so I have 18 plus 12. So I end up with an answer of 30. Okay, next tape we will be going over problem set 3-4. If you're a little confused with this, we'll go over some more problems.